Blood trickled down Clara's dark fingers as 3 white military police surrounded her old van outside Fort Benning. "Step away from the vehicle, ma'am," one ordered, hands hovering near holsters. The sun was unforgiving that July afternoon, beating down on Clara as she wiped sweat and grease from her brow, her fingers trembling slightly while fiddling under the hood of her military-modified van, a relic almost as old as she was. It wasn't supposed to go down like this. This was her annual pilgrimage, 30 years running, a solemn journey from her South Carolina home to honor fallen comrades at military cemeteries across the country. Black soldiers like her had fought not just against America's enemies, but also the brutal prejudice woven deep inside the ranks. And yet here she was, stranded outside the main gate, engine dead, eyes burning from suspicious stares cast by white passers-by who only saw an elderly black woman in worn clothes. Clara ignored those looks. She'd grown used to them and focused on tightening a loose connection, her arthritis making every movement a small battle. Boots echoed on the pavement, making her pause. 3 young MPs approached, their confident strides and hands near holsters sending a familiar chill down her spine. "Ma'am, you can't park here," said the tallest, his badge reading Davidson. Clara straightened slowly, her back aching but her voice calm. "Afternoon, officers. Just some engine trouble. I'll be gone soon." Davidson narrowed his eyes, suspicion dripping from every word. "Restricted area. Need to see ID." She sighed inwardly, but didn't flinch. "ID's in my purse inside the van. Mind if I get it?" The men tensed as she reached through the window, slowly handing over her driver's license and retired military ID. Davidson's eyebrows lifted slightly. "Colonel Clara Benson," he read aloud, disbelief coloring his tone. 30 years service, she confirmed quietly. Yet doubt lingered in their eyes. "Could be fake," muttered another officer. Clara felt the familiar sting, the same burning sensation she'd known throughout her career whenever her legitimacy was questioned. "These are real," she said evenly. "I retired as a colonel. I'm here to pay respects." Davidson reluctantly handed the IDs back, but pressed on, circling her van. "Lots of modifications for a civilian vehicle. Reinforced chassis, military tires. Looks like surveillance gear." Clara's mind flashed back decades, being stopped at her own base gate in '79, repeatedly proving herself, watching less qualified white officers rise ahead of her. This van's military surplus. Bought it legally after retirement. Paperwork's in a glove box. Davidson's radio crackled. "Backup's coming," he said coldly. "Step away from the vehicle." Clara squared her shoulders, a soldier's stance, even at 62. "I'm a retired colonel. I have every right to fix this and move on." Davidson's face flushed, hand creeping closer to his holster. Memories of more dangerous confrontations flashed. She wasn't about to be intimidated now. Slowly, deliberately, she stepped back as more vehicles rolled up, kicking dust behind them. The doors of the lead vehicle opened to reveal a tall black man wearing a major general's uniform, for stars gleaming in the Georgia sun. Behind him came aides and security, but Clara stayed, bent over the engine, sleeves rolled up, revealing a faded tattoo on her forearm. The general's gaze locked on it, his face unreadable. William Hayes was no stranger to the military's hidden battles, a black officer who'd had to prove himself again and again in a system that never fully accepted men like him. "What's going on here?" he asked, voice commanding. Davidson stood at attention. "Suspicious vehicle, ma'am, claiming to be retired colonel. Modifications on van." Hayes' eyes dropped to Clara's tattoo, a Black Panther midstride. Coordinates inked beneath it. Recognition flickered across his face, a story he'd heard as a young lieutenant, whispered among black troops about a secret all-black special ops unit called the Shadow Panthers. So classified that the military officially denied it existed. He stepped closer, voice softer now. "May I see the full tattoo?" Clara sized him up, decades of combat and command in her eyes before rolling up her sleeve fully. The general whispered, "Shadow Panthers. Operation Black Storm, Cambodia, 1972. Clara's eyes widened just slightly. You know about Black Storm? Rumors, Hayes said. 30 hostages rescued when 3 conventional teams failed. Over 60% casualties. Mission Commander Lieutenant Clara Benson. The MPs looked confused, but Davidson stepped forward. Sir, protocol requires vehicle search. Hayes cut him off. This is Colonel Benson, former commander of one of the most decorated covert units erased from history because of their skin color. He stood tall, saluting. Clara hesitated, then returned it crisply, a gesture that had once been second nature. Davidson cleared his throat. Sir, we still must follow protocol. Hayes dismissed them. I'll take full responsibility. The MPs left reluctantly, tension lingering in the air. Hayes turned to Clara. Let us help with your repairs. The motor pool can fix this quickly. Clara studied him, wary but grateful. Thanks, General, but I've handled worse. Hayes smiled a determined glint. There are people here who've only heard legends of the Shadow Panthers. Maybe it's time for some truths to come out. As they arranged for her van to be towed, a shadow lingered a senior MP in a vehicle watching intently, speaking quietly into a phone. She has the tattoo as described. Complete discretion. The man was a link to a past many wanted buried. Clara rode beside Hayes through the base, noting the modern buildings and diverse personnel, yet sensing curious stares. Fort Benning's changed, she said softly. More diversity, but the top ranks don't yet reflect it. Hayes nodded. Progress is slow. When I was a lieutenant, I heard whispers about the Panthers. Most called it folklore, but I suspected the truth. Clara's eyes held a weight of unspoken history. Truth is often a casualty of war, especially when it challenges the narrative those in power want to keep. They arrived at the administration building, greeted with curious eyes. Hayes led Clara to meet Colonel James Reynolds, the base commander, a stern white man, clearly uncomfortable. Your unit's name isn't in our records, Reynolds said, eyes narrowing. Which unit was that? Clara met his stare. A classified unit, Colonel. Our commendations were too. Reynolds gestured toward a wall of photos, mostly white officers. Clara scanned until one caught her eye, a map table surrounded by high-ranking officers, a face in the background she recognized but quickly hid her reaction. Maybe your tattoo's just a souvenir, Reynolds smirked. Hayes interrupted. I've authorized VIP quarters for Colonel Benson. Let's cooperate. Soon, Clara was escorted by Lieutenant Sarah Chun, a young Asian-American officer tasked with watching her closely. Chin's honesty about her orders didn't surprise. Clara's surveillance, disguised as hospitality, was nothing new. During dinner, Chun asked gently about Hayes' recognition of Clara. Clara revealed the tattoo and the truth of the Shadow Panthers, a secret unit formed to handle impossible missions during the Vietnam War, their successes erased, their sacrifices ignored. We were the plausible deniability, Clara said bitterly. If we failed, the army disavowed us. If we succeeded, our victories were credited to others. Because in 1971, black soldiers doing what white units couldn't was too hard to accept. Chun listened, fascinated, as Clara recounted extracting hostages near Cambodia, losing comrades whose deaths never made the records. After the war, the unit was disbanded without ceremony, its members scattered, their history buried. Meanwhile, at the base, Reynolds made a call to General Harold Morrison, a figure from Clara's past, ordering strict security around Clara. Morrison's presence cast a shadow, his influence aiming to keep the Panthers' story locked away forever. Clara met Morrison in a tense conference room, decades of conflict simmering between them. He accused her of risking national security by displaying the tattoo, a symbol of a unit that officially never existed. She fired back, exposing cover-ups, abandonment of soldiers in the field, and systematic erasure fueled by racism and corruption. An undercurrent of betrayal filled the room as Morrison defended himself, but Clara's calm resolve cracked open decades of silence. Documents and recordings began surfacing, revealing operations stolen by other units, medals never awarded, and corruption involving high-ranking officers profiting from wartime supply diversions. Lieutenant Shun took a risk, secretly copying files exposing these crimes, sharing them with trusted allies, including a military journalist ready to bring the truth into the light. Then, unexpectedly, 3 other elderly black veterans arrived at the base, all bearing the Panther tattoo, coming together after 40 years. They brought with them a cache of evidence, mission logs, photographs, testimonies, a hidden time capsule of history painstakingly preserved to tell the full story. As Clara suffered a medical episode, the veterans set their plan in motion to reclaim their legacy, expose the corruption, and demand the recognition long denied. Hayes and Chen coordinated, navigating military bureaucracy and shadowy power plays determined to silence them. News leaked to the press, and public pressure mounted. A Pentagon official confirmed the systematic falsification of records and theft of honors, revealing that the fight wasn't just about recognition, it was about justice against betrayal at the highest levels. Finally, a historic press conference at Fort Benning revealed the truth. General Hayes spoke solemnly about the Shadow Panther's existence and erased legacy. Clara shared her story, honoring those lost and vowing the silence would end. Evidence flooded the room. Journalists captured every detail. Military officials reacted with shock and shame. Morrison stormed out, defeated, as the president himself called in to apologize for the injustice and order immediate review and recognition, a memorial at Arlington, posthumous medals, and inclusion in military history forever. The next morning, Clara stood before her repaired van, surrounded by fellow Panthers, active-duty soldiers, and supporters. A young black lieutenant saluted her, thanking her for the courage to fight for the truth, a fight far from over. As Clara drove through the main gate, MPs who had once doubted her now saluted with respect. The tattoo on her arm, no longer a secret, but a symbol of honor finally brought into the light. So, what do you think about the Shadow Panthers, their erased history and long battle for recognition? Has this changed how you view military service and the contributions of Black Americans? Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and share this story. Because sometimes the darkest truths need the brightest spotlight, and justice, even if delayed, can still be served.